There's a silent conflict being waged right now. And it's not being fought with armies or battleships, but with supply chains and refineries, all for control over the very stuff that powers our modern world. I mean, just think about the device that's probably in your hand right now, or the electric car you're maybe thinking about buying, or those giant wind turbines promising a greener future. What is the one single indispensable ingredient that makes it all tick? Well, here's the thing. The answer is probably not what you think. It's not the stuff of household names like silicon or steel. Nope, it's something way more obscure and, frankly, a lot more critical. Yeah, we are talking about rare earth elements, a group of 17 elements that sound like they're straight out of a sci-fi novel, but they are the very real invisible fuel for this high-stakes global conflict. Okay, so what is the big deal with these elements? What makes them so incredibly important? Well, let's pull back the curtain and see where these hidden ingredients are hiding in plain sight. Just look at how specific this gets. You've got neodymium and praseodymium. They come together to create these incredibly powerful, yet surprisingly lightweight magnets. They are absolutely essential for EV motors and wind turbines. And then you have things like europium and yttrium. Those are phosphors, literally the substances that create those vibrant, glowing colors on your smartphone screen. The bottom line is, without them, our most advanced gadgets just, well, they wouldn't work. But it gets even more serious, like way more serious, when we start talking about defense. Samarium is critical for magnets in precision-guided munitions. Gadolinium, key to advanced radar. And here's the kicker. Terbium and dysprosium, they allow magnets to keep working under the extreme heat you'd find in missile guidance systems or inside the super sophisticated electronics of an F-35 fighter jet. Let's be clear, without a steady supply of this stuff, military superiority is just not possible. All right, so the big question is, who controls this stuff? This strategic bedrock of the 21st century? Well, overwhelmingly, it's one nation. And let me tell you, this did not happen by accident. No way. This was the result of a deliberate, decades-long strategic gambit. And wow, the shift it was fast and it was dramatic. Believe it or not, back in the 80s, the US was the top dog in rare earth production. But then came the 90s. Western nations, kind of spooked by the high environmental costs, we're talking toxic, sometimes even radioactive waste, pretty much abandoned the whole industry for cheaper supplies from China. China saw this massive opening and they went for it, investing huge amounts of money and basically accepting the brutal environmental fallout as the price of dominating the entire supply chain. And this quote just says it all. As early as 1992, the Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping laid it out perfectly. He wasn't just talking about a commodity, he was framing rare earths as a source of geopolitical power, right up there with oil. Incredible foresight. But here's the twist. The real power, the real genius of the strategy, isn't just about digging these things out of the ground. The true source of the world's vulnerability, it lies in the next step, the processing. Okay, this is where it gets really mind-boggling. Check this out. While China mines around 70% of the world's raw rare earth ores, which is a lot, just look at the refining stage. Its control over separating all those mixed-up ores into the individual pure elements you actually need for manufacturing, it's practically a monopoly. Yeah, 90%. Just let that number sink in for a second. This, right here, is the choke point. China controls roughly 90% of the world's ability to turn a chunk of rare earth ore into something usable. So here's what that actually means, right? Even if new mines open up in places like Australia or the US, that raw, unrefined ore often still has to be shipped to China. Why? Because that's where the incredibly complex, dirty, and hazardous chemical processing happens. Without their refineries, the world's rare earths are basically just useless rocks. That's not just market share, that's a strategic stranglehold. And believe me, this isn't just some theory on a PowerPoint slide. Back in 2010, the world got a front row seat to what happens when that power is used as a weapon. So picture this, 2010. There's this tense standoff at sea between China and Japan over some disputed islands. And in response, what does Beijing do? It slashes rare earth export quotas to Japan, a manufacturing giant that was completely dependent on them. And the result? Absolute panic. The global prices for key elements like dysprosium and neodymium just went through the roof. It was a crystal clear signal to the rest of the world that China could, and would, weaponize its control over the supply chain. Yeah, that silent war, it suddenly got very, very loud. So that one incident, it was like a global fire alarm went off, kicking off this desperate scramble by nations all over the world to break their dependency and build new, more secure supply chains. And you better believe the reaction came, and it came fast, at least on paper. The US Department of Defense is now pumping money into domestic projects to try and bring its own capabilities back from the dead. The EU has its Critical Raw Materials Act trying to boost local sourcing, and you're seeing key allies, Australia, Canada, Japan, all trying to coordinate their efforts to build new supply chains, a strategy people are calling friendshoring. But, and this is a huge but, the challenges are just immense. I mean, trying to rebuild an entire industry that you abandoned decades ago is unbelievably hard. It's complicated, it's polluting, and now it has to follow much stricter environmental laws. It needs enormous, long-term investment, and even then, these new projects are just a drop in the bucket compared to China's massive, well-established operation. So look, we have to be real here. While new mines are opening up and some pilot processing plants are getting tested, creating a supply chain that's truly secure and diverse is a monumental undertaking. This is not a quick fix. This is a marathon, not a sprint. We're talking about a struggle that's going to take us well into the next decade. Easy. And all of this leaves us with one huge final question. The scramble is definitely on. The race has begun. But is it happening fast enough? Fast enough to secure the foundations of our green ambitions, our digital lives, and even our national security? The stakes really could not be higher.